everyone, welcome to Watercolor Wednesday. I am Bonnie Krebs, creator of Watercolor the Art Impressions Way, and this week I'm going to walk you through our 2019 exclusive set. So it's this little flower cart here. It comes with 3 pieces: the little canopy, the little wagon, and the pots that go inside. So this set is available to those of you who have taken our watercolor class, our traveling class. Thank you so much. This is our thank you to you. So it is not sold in stores, but I would encourage you, if you can get to a class, not only because of the teaching, there's so much more in-depth teaching, and doing it yourself really makes a difference. So I would encourage you to get to a class if you're at all able to. And of course, you get this exclusive set free as our thank you. So we're going to work our way through this one today. Even if you don't have this set, there are a lot of good techniques that you'll learn. So follow along anyway. All right, so we're going to get started. We're going to need a few things. So in addition to the exclusive set, we are going to use one of the little birds. I'm going to pick this one right here, but you can of course use any of them. In the little mini flower set, we're going to use a few of these. So this little bundle right here, this one right here, and this little long stem. So 3 of those. And then the foliage set. This is foliage set 3. We're going to use the little grasses. And foliage set 4, the small vine, and these little stems. And then in the flower set, the little filler flower. So now keep in mind, when you look at this, the reason I'm using so many sets is because I have lots of little flowers in here, but you can also use what you have. So if you don't have every single one of these little things, just use what you have. A lot of these things are so versatile. Any flowers, any of the foliages, they're all gonna work. Okay, so let's get going. We're going to start out by stamping the basic image, and the basic image in this case comes in 3 parts. So we're going to start out by stamping the bottom. This is the little cart, and we're going to ink it in 2 colors. So it's wood, so therefore we're going to start with the dark blue first, and we're going to ink this all up. Just cover this whole thing. Use the side of your marker. I probably don't say that enough, but don't try to color on it with the tip like this. That'll take you forever and be the most frustrating thing. So use the side of your marker, and then we're going to go back over it again with the dark brown. So this is the dark brown, number 969, and that was the dark blue, number 565. Okay, so once we've got that done, we're going to stamp this off because we don't want this too dark. And anytime you have something kind of back in the distance, you don't want to see an outline around it. So we don't want to see those really dark, harsh lines. So I'm going to start by stamping it now kind of in the center, and I have my paper portrait, so that's up and down. And I'm going to stamp this a little bit below the center line. Once that's done, now I'm going to dip my brush in water and pinch it off. And you can see that we have an angle here. So this little cart kind of goes back. So this little angle here is the closest area to us. So that's going to be the lightest. So we're going to take that color from where it's the darkest and bring it over to where it's the lightest. And I'm just going to kind of follow these little lines. And keep in mind that this area here is going to be the lightest area on the card, and that's going to give us this dimension. If we lose this, or if we cross these lines, this is all going to be very flat, and we'll lose this angle completely. So it's so important to do those little things. Anytime you have an angle like that, you want to be sure and make that the lightest area. The top, so this is the top, we want to see a highlight on there of the wheels. And you'll notice that these little wheels, they don't have any spokes in them. And that's because they would be too harsh. So we're going to put those in later, and we're going to do it a really simple way, and that's with a pencil. So we'll get to that towards the end. Okay, so I've kind of made a good start here, and you can see this is starting to look really 3-dimensional now. And also another thing, when you're pulling the color out of the lines, and I don't know if you can see this really close up, but you want to pull the color from the bottom. So you're not actually tracing the line, you're pulling the color from the bottom of the line and you're dragging it out. And what that does is that pops up this ridge. And you can see how this makes this 3-dimensional. And you can see this little ridge here creates this, this little lip on this wagon and pops it up. And that's because we're pulling that color down below that line. Okay, so let's go on to the next step, and that's to put our little pots in here. So I'm going to just put them on the top of my block, and I'm going to use my positioner. I want to make sure that I get them in here correctly, and I'm going to use a little piece of Post-it tape and just cover the edge of this wagon. So I don't want to stamp those pots over the top of the edge. This Post-it tape is just so handy because you can just pull off just as much as you need here. So I'm just going to take a couple of strips, and I always leave a little bit of the line so that I can kind of see where I am. Where does the line end on both sides? And then I'm going to ink these now in 2 colors. So these are little stone pots or metal pots. So we're going to start with the brown first. And we're just going to ink this all up with the brown. And then we're going to come back over it again with the dark blue. And I'm going to now stamp that onto my positioner. So like this. And actually, if the block is large, you want to turn your little plexiglass up and down like this so that you can hold on to it with your finger. And now I can see, okay, this is exactly where I want this, and I can fit these little pots in between the lines on my cart and stamp it just like that. So I'm going to place this back now in the corner and just hop on it and stamp this back in the corner. Just good even pressure. Don't stamp anything too harsh or too dark. You know, not too much pressure when you're stamping these things. It really, really makes a difference. We don't want to see a dark outline. We just want to see that color blend. So now I can pull these off, and you can see we've got these little pots into the wagon now. All right, so I'm going to dip my brush again, pinch it off, and you can see that these all have a contour. So we want to show that contour by a highlight. So that means we're dragging the color out from where it's the darkest. That would be the sides, right? And we're bringing it over to the center, just like this. Dragging it from the side, bringing it over to the center. And stay in each section. Remember, we don't cross any horizontal lines with the brush. I want to stay in each section on its own. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let's go on to the next step, and that is to add our little foliages in here, and you can use anything. I picked these little flowers from my little mini flower set, but like I said, any of the little flowers are going to work. And you can make it really, really simple. Put some grasses in, a few little blooms, and you're good to go. So I think I will use some blue. This is the light blue, and I colored the bottom green. And I'm just going to stamp it in here just a couple of times, just like that. And then I'm going to add some water to that. So I'm just going to kind of pull the green part down into the pot and then just dab at the little dots. Don't be afraid to go outside the lines. You know, you've got a lot of color on your brush, so just make some extra dots here and there. It's just going to add a lot more to your composition. Okay, let's go on to the next one, and let's keep this one really simple. I think I'm going to just use some little grasses here. If you're afraid to stamp over the edge, just take that little Post-it note again, Post-it tape, and just cover it. So like this. And let's just ink this up and just stamp this in here. And then you can remove that, and then you know that you're not going to have any ink on your little pot. So let's just pull some of this color down. It doesn't take much because these little areas are so small, so these are just really go fast. Let's do a little flower in here now. So this is the little one from the little mini flower set, and I'm using a purple, so just a bright purple. And I'm just going to ink this up like that, and you can see I'm kind of walking it, just walking it up. And add a little water to it. So it's always just stamp and add water. Remember, you're just touching the inked areas. So that just means that you're softening the lines. You don't want to lose the integrity of the image. So we want to see that this is little flower, its composition. So we don't want to end up with a big, you know, round blur. So just carefully touch all those areas. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Let's make this one really bright. So let's take some pink and our little filler flower, And maybe just ink a couple of these and just stamp this in here. You can change out the seasons. This little cart would be so good for so many things. There's a little set that has pumpkins in it. That would be so cute. You could put something like that in there. Christmas, be really cute. So versatile. Versatile is the key. I like things that you can use over and over again. Okay, so now I'm going to take my little vine and I'm just going to, okay, here's another instance where I'm gonna cover that because I just want to make sure that I don't overdo this vine. This is such a small little area. And I'm just gonna put this in here. And just add my water. And let's just put another little detail in here. Every time you do these projects, you know, they turn out differently. So it's really fun. And once you have the technique down, it's just fun. The stress is out of it. You know how to stamp it. You know how to add the water to it. And every time a new project comes out, you already know how to do it. So everything is going to continue to work the same way. So here's that little vine again, and I'm just adding a few more little vines into this little bright pot. And then you can leave these pots white if you want to. They're perfectly fine like that. Or you can add some color. So let's do that. Let's add some color to it. I'm gonna do it from my palette. So let's put some colors on the palette. It's that bright purple. How about some green? And maybe some blue. And let's start to add some color. So I'm taking a little bit, just a little bit of color, and let's put some onto this little wagon. And we're pulling this color forward. Make sure that you keep this area the lightest. And this back in here, this would be darker as it comes forward. And this area is going to be lighter. It's just such an easy thing to remember, but if you do, you're going to be so much happier with how things turn out. You really will. So let's add a little color now to some legs. And maybe we add some color now to this little pot. Again, you're going to apply the color the same way that you pulled the color out of the lines. So these little pots that are rounded, you want to pull that color out to the center where it's the lightest. So from the edge, from the side to the center, and make sure you're showing that little highlight on there. And then you can do a little cute little embellishment on here if you want to. And maybe just a little decorative something on this one. Maybe we keep this one white and we just do a little decorative something on that. And let's do this one, maybe this one green. Just pull this over. If you find that you have too much color on your brush, just pinch it off. Too much water or too much color. These little images, they're so small that you can overwhelm them with color and water really easily. So I continue to pinch my brush off over and over again. And the key really is that the side is darker than the center. If the side is darker than the center, your pot's going to be round. And let's add some purple now to this one. Kind of feel like this pot needs to be purple. And again, darker on the sides. That's the key. And we don't have much else to do on that little cart. Let's go ahead and add some vines down in the bottom here. And we're going to do that with this little mini vine. And I'm just going to use a light green and just stamp a few of these in here. You don't have to, cover the entire bottom of this image with vines or grass. it's the idea of it. So clearly you can see that this little wagon is sitting in a grassy area if you put these things in. So everything doesn't have to be concrete. And I think sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. Knowing when to stop. I hear that all the time. Don't overwork it. I think that's my favorite phrase. Don't overwork it. Let it just, you know, these projects are meant to be done in 5 or 10 minutes, like literally 5 or 10 minutes. And do it quick and then let it sit for a while and come back the next day and look at it. And I betcha you're gonna love it. Okay, so let's put in a little long stem here, and I'm gonna use the purple. Just ink the bloom and the stem. And you know, I'm just picking greens up here, so it doesn't matter what green you use. Just pick a green. And get this in here a few times. So I'm gonna ink it again. The green and the purple. Remember, no water on the stem. That's a rule with a long stem. We never add any water to the stem. So one more time, and I think we got enough of these little guys. That looks pretty good. So we're just going to add just a dab of water to the little blooms. You can pull some of this color now to the outside if you want to. It's purely optional. If you like that really soft look, what you're doing is you're touching the line and pulling it down. So again, you're not coloring on the line. You're pulling that color down. Okay, so let's go on to the top. And you know, this is so versatile. You could leave it just like this too. But I'm going to show you how to put that canopy on. So the canopy now is the third part. And we're going to use the positioner again. This little thing is my best friend. I just love it because it's easy to travel with, and it's so quick. It's so quick to do, and it just sort of takes the guesswork out. So I'm gonna put this on my block in the corner. This is just my preference, personal preference, to put things in the corner. I just think it's easier to see where you're stamping if it's in the corner. Of course, if you're left-handed, it would be in this corner. Rather than in the center of the block. I feel like that's just a little too awkward to stamp. So this just makes it easier, but you can certainly place it anywhere you want. Okay, so now I'm just gonna ink this in the brown. I want this to be really light, this little canvas. And I'm going to stamp it on my positioner, and this is a big block, so I'm gonna place my little acrylic block up and down like this, so I can hold it like this. So I can hold it with my index finger and my middle finger, and then stamp it into here. And I want this to be really, really light, so I'm just gonna stamp it off one more time. And now I can position it exactly where I want it. And so I can make sure it's centered. That's the reason this is a separate piece too, is because you can move it up or down. So maybe you have a huge, huge group of flowers in here, and so you're just mounting this up. So in this case, I want to set it right above these little flowers and make sure that I've got it centered. So that looks pretty good right there. And I'm just going to huff on it and stamp it in the corner. Okay, that looks good. And I don't have to do a lot to this. I can pull a little of this color out, but it's so light that I don't have to do much. And I'll just pull some of this color out here. Like so. And let's add some color to it. And you can color this however you want. I am partial to stripes, so I always do that. And if you're doing stripes, especially on the side, start in the middle because there aren't any lines here. So if you're not quite sure where those stripes go, just start in the middle like that and then do one on each side. And I'm just taking this from my palette and just brushing it on. So just like that. And then all of these little scallops, those can all be markers for you for the stripes. So you just keep coming over, keep this light. Keep it light. That's the thing about watercolor. I always feel like it's light and pastels and beautiful. And then turn your paper and follow this line. Now when you're doing this area, so you want to bring this up and follow this line. So we're just doing it at an angle. You can do smaller stripes too if you want. Totally up to you. Just so fun. Okay, so we've got our little stripes in, and we've got a couple of details left to do. So you can see that there's also no posts here that connect the canopy to the cart. That's also because we don't want to confine this area and have to stamp over those posts. So we just put them in later. And I just do it with a straight edge, and you can use your little positioner. I use this a lot as a straight edge. And I'm gonna go from corner to corner. So I'm gonna place my little straight edge here, and I'm just going to make a line with a pencil straight down. Just like that, corner to corner on here. And make this line. Make sure I'm not stamping over that canopy here. And there's not really any space here, but we can put just one little line in here. Like that. And then let's go ahead and put in the little spokes. The easiest way to do these is first straight up and down, and don't stress out over these. These are just the easiest things to do, and then straight across. And then just do one in the center. It's just the idea of it, remember that. It's just the idea. Straight down, over on this wheel. And just like that. One more step, and let's put that little bird up on the top. And this is, again, purely optional. You don't have to do this step, but I kind of feel like there needs to be a bird in here. So I'm going to ink this in the brown, the dark brown. And we want this little guy to really be light, so I'm going to stamp him off and then stamp him into my positioner and place him right about there. That looks good. Puff on it, and just good even pressure. And you can see that I didn't get him on there quite good enough, but you know what? A pencil is so great. There we go, we can finish that off. And then let's pull this color out of the lines. So a little bit of brown, and these little images are so tiny. They don't take much. And we've already darkened that little eye, so that's always the key, is to make sure that you darken the eye and the little beak. And his little belly here, just a little bit of color on his little belly. Okay, that looks pretty good. One thing left to do, and that is to sign and date. And put that on a card and give it to someone. You're going to make their day. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you all next week.